So there's no question that the economy is a struggle. It is a hot point. It is a pain point for many, many Americans and for businesses here in America. And I just read a headline, which is something that I've been talking to you guys about for months. If you go back and check on some of my older videos, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But I was telling you that not only are the people going to feel the squeeze, but the businesses are going to feel the squeeze as well. And the headline reads that mortgage lenders are now facing bankruptcy. We are seeing a shift in the housing market. We got reports from various different outlets and other channels on YouTube, Reventure Consulting. We even have the Economic Ninja, who now has the channel Real Estate Ninja. I Allegedly, Scott Walters Realtor, Living in South Florida with Chris Igo. Multiple different channels reporting on the housing market. Even Graham Steffens covered this. I'm pretty sure Graham Steffens covered this along with the automotive and car market bubble popping. But the economy is in need of serious repair. The Fed, Jerome Powell, they have announced this. You guys saw the press conference last week in Jackson Hole.
Restoring price stability will take some time and requires using our tools forcefully to bring demand and supply into better balance. Reducing inflation is likely to require a sustained period of below-trend growth. Moreover, there will very likely be some softening of labor market conditions. While higher interest rates, slower growth, and softer labor market conditions will bring down inflation, they will also bring some pain to households and businesses. These are the unfortunate costs of reducing inflation. But a failure to restore price stability would mean far greater pain.
The Fed, Jerome Powell, they have announced this. You guys saw the press conference last week in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, talking about the economy, talking about inflation. We are bracing ourselves for another possible 75 basis points hike in interest rates to fight inflation. Meanwhile, the housing market is cooling. Buyer confidence is lowering. The ability for home buyers, first-time home buyers, or just buyers in general to apply and be approved for mortgages is being reduced, with banks reporting less mortgage applications being received on a regular basis. Now we're getting reports that some of the mortgage lenders themselves are facing some difficult times with bankruptcy, which could be tied to some foreclosures, some forbearance periods where people weren't making payments. And then these mortgage companies and their investments in the stock market, possible other real estate and REITs, real estate investment trusts, cryptocurrency possibly, maybe even invested in some stocks, some Fortune 500 blue chip stocks like Bed Bath & Beyond that are going south, that are hurting their portfolios, hurting their bottom lines, putting the squeeze on them, and now they're facing bankruptcy. But I got a question for you. Now, the real question is, why are these mortgage lenders possibly facing bankruptcy at a time at which we're seeing the housing market take a decline, housing market collapse, possible housing market crash, depending on the area, depending on the city, the zip code. Like we said, like Chris Igo said in an interview on a previous video of mine, it's not just the housing market. There are markets within markets within markets, and there are a lot of variables that come into play. I could probably even highlight a few markets in America that probably will never see a negative effect, as other housing markets are seeing a negative effect based on their location, based on how affluent the neighborhood is, the potential buyers, the people who live there. Keep those markets afloat. They keep them towards the higher end of the price range, and they're kind of insulated from some of the things that we see going on here and there across other markets, other housing markets. But what are these mortgage companies up against? What are they preparing themselves for? What do they know that they aren't sharing just yet? As home prices in general are starting to have the possibility of trending downward. As interest rates continue to climb, buyer confidence, buyer ability, the household incomes are being lowered due to inflation, possible job layoffs. Bed Bath & Beyond again, 150 store closings. Multiple layoffs are going to occur from that. There are several other industries that have announced layoffs. Ford being one of them. I think Best Buy as well. Walmart is closing stores. And these are just a few of the many that we've already recovered. We covered an aluminum manufacturer and how they closed down because the economy was eating them up alive and they couldn't afford to maintain profitable operations. The Chinese-owned pork processing plant, they are going to close because it's just too expensive to do business in general. But then you talk about California, then it's just sky high. But think about it like this. I told you guys before, there are options out there that you can use to prepare yourself financially for these negative downturns. But you need to be careful. You need to be smart about these options and if you choose to use them or not. And if you do choose to use them, you got to understand both sides of the coin here. They're not just in business to make your life easier. They're going to profit, probably more so than you. But they're not going to deliver it that way. They're not going to present it that way. They're going to put it out in front of you like it's on a silver platter. And, it's the best thing since sliced bread. And why haven't you chosen to do this already? What are you waiting on? Everyone else is doing it. This is great. This is awesome. Like, this is free money, which, most people think like, hey, we got the government. The government's just going to dole out free money like they did before. Newsflash, this time, not going to happen. The economy, people's jobs, everything is going, as it's on a decline, not for everybody, but for some who are experiencing this, the government is not there to bail anyone out this time, in my opinion. I could be wrong.
Not the average person.
Yeah, not the average person. Maybe some corporations, maybe some high-level execs and CEOs and the 1%ers and the half a percenters. But in my opinion, there's no cavalry coming. There's no recovery package. There's no bill and proposal. There's no stimulus of any sort. There's nothing. So companies are now, and I'm seeing these companies coming out, and I knew that this was going to happen. And I called it before. I said that the older population, the senior population, the 55 and up population, more than likely, and typically 55 and up, nearing retirement, looking to protect their nest egg, are going to be prey. They're going to be vulnerable from scams. Well, the scams, I think, are coming. And I'm not saying that it's a scam, but I'm seeing more and more advertisements and promotions coming out about reverse mortgages. Now, we started this off with talking about mortgage lenders are going bankrupt. The housing market is on a decline in general. So why would a bank want to offer you a reverse mortgage? Now, if they, and this is going to be an older generation, probably owns their home or is near owning their home, have been living in it for 20, 25 years, maybe even less. They went with a 15-year mortgage. But the point is, they are targeting the older population in this position, looking to retain as much as possible of their retirement or even recoup what they lost in the market from a possible reverse mortgage or something from the equity in their home. Now, we talked about this. A company that I came across, it was called EasyKnock. And EasyKnock offers this simple and easy turnkey solution that everyone's jumping on and everyone loves, and you can never find anything negative or bad about it. And they're going to give you money for your home and allow you the ability to stay in your home as a renter, as a tenant, theoretically indefinitely, as long as you continue to pay them. And guess what? If you decide you want to buy it back, we'll sell it back to you. How much better could that be? Now,
did they say how much you could buy back from them for?
There's a lot of variables there. But if you guys are noticing, I do have Economic Prepper with me here today. And Economic Prepper, what do you think about a reverse mortgage?
Well, I think a reverse mortgage, I don't really have a positive or a negative opinion on that. I think it's a tool just like any other tool, So it depends on the circumstances. I think it depends on what is the strategy behind you considering executing the use of this tool, maybe how long you want to use this tool, what are your goals? So I can't say if it's good or bad, but I will say that I have to agree that I generally see people generally over the age of 50, 55 years old considering and executing the reverse mortgages.
These are the stories, these are the headlines that you read that really kind of hurt. They make you sad because you'll read them, you'll hear about them a few years from now, and someone will be a nice sweet old lady will be sitting there saying, yeah, my husband passed, I had this, we had plans for retirement, but now I'm just trying to survive because money is tight, inflation is high, the economy is a bear. And somebody came and knocked on my door, offered me a great plan. I thought it was going to be great, and now I'm homeless.
Oh yeah, I can give you a great example of how that could easily happen. And,
Please do.
And it's really scary when you think about it. So let's just say, you know, your plans for retirement consider, you know, spending more time with your family, going out to the beach, you know, just, you know, living. You worked all of your life, you know, 40+ hour work weeks. You've gone through multiple bouts of inflation, deflation, stagflation, you name it, and you finally get to the point where, you know what, I'm 55 years old, I'm 60 years old, maybe I'm 65 years old, I can finally live life. And so, you know what, here I am. Now you get an offer in the mail, you know, maybe you sought it out, but however the case is, you're considering a reverse mortgage, right? Now, a reverse mortgage can be offered, and this is what a lot of people don't quite understand. A reverse mortgage could be offered by anybody. It could be offered from a Bank of America. It could be offered from a Chase, a Wells Fargo, any of your favorite popular banks. It could be offered by a mortgage company. It could be offered by a guy who just happens to have
Just
an
investor.
A private investor, you know, hard money sometimes is what they call them, hard money lenders. So an investor can literally just say, hey,
In case you guys don't know, hard money lenders were the driving force behind a lot of real estate flips.
oh yes,
For underqualified investors and contractors looking to get into that. Hard money lenders is what drove that a little bit. Just to give you a little bit of background on that. We can touch on that later. If you guys want to know, drop a comment, let me know.
absolutely, right? So let's just say, okay, you know, you're 65 years old and then you find yourself, you know, you want to retire, maybe even health takes you out of the workforce. You know, I mean, you're 65 years old, you know, you're not in your prime anymore as you once were. All of a sudden, you're realizing, hey, inflation's, you know, they're reporting it is 8-9%, but you're looking at your expenses and your expenses have probably gone up 30%. So your whole retirement plans are out of whack. Everything's 30%.
Especially if you're retired and, you know, or near or relying on Social Security, and your Social Security is not, your cost of living adjustments are not keeping up with inflation.
Right? Fixed income, right? So what does that mean? It's fixed. So as expenses around you are getting more and more expensive, you got the same check coming in, right? So lo and behold, you're like, oh my God, well, what am I going to do? Well, thankfully, I paid my house off. You know, I owe my house. You know, I own this piece of real estate that me and my husband worked and you know, paid off. Me and my wife paid off, you know, and this is the one asset that we have
Passed down generations from your grandparents.
Right.
You know, it's been in the family for multiple years and generations.
and so you have this asset that you could utilize and liquidate, but actually still use. And so depends on the terms of your mortgage, or I should say your reverse mortgage, right? So let's just say you're almost house poor, as they like to say. You got the house, but you don't have the cash. And so a lot of these lenders will say, hey, you know what? Let me help out Mary. Let me help out Bob. Let me help out John, or whoever you are. I got a deal for you. I got an offer for you. So this mortgage company comes in whatever form they come in, right? And they say, hey, we're going to do a quick appraisal on your home. They realize that the real estate that you live in right now is, let's just say hypothetically, it's worth $300,000. Matter of fact, let's just say $400,000, since the average home in America is around $400,000 today, right? So they say, hey, your house is worth $400,000. We will provide you with a monthly payment of, let's just say, $1,500, maybe $2,000 for the next 20 years, right? Now, the terms may vary. I'm just giving you guys one example. They could give you a lump sum of money. It really depends on how you and the lender decide to structure the deal. But let's just say, hey, $2,000 per month sounds great. Sign me up, right?
Who would really need to see another $2,000 a month? Just kind of curious. Comment below.
Absolutely. Comment down below. So now I don't have a calculator with me right now, but let's just say you had, $2,000 a month coming in. That's what, $24,000 a year. And so you and the mortgage company agree to stay in the house until the mortgage balance is paid off. So let's just say you and the mortgage company agree that your house is worth $400,000. They're going to pay you $2,000 every single month until the balance is paid off, and then they own the home. They own the property. Now, here are some things that a lot of people are not thinking about. Most of the stories that I'm hearing from I don't want to call them victims, but they kind of end up being a victim in the situations that they find themselves in. But this is why you guys are going to get the benefit, because you're going to hear this story. You're going to be able to say to yourself, hey, I don't want to be that.
And if you want to know more about these stories and these emails and these encounters that he has, I'm going to put a link to his channel in the description so you guys can check it out.
Appreciate that. And so let's just say, okay, I'm just thinking about my history. Okay, no one in my family has lived past, I don't know, I'm going to make up a number, 70 years old, 80 years old, whatever the number is, right? But if you're 65, you're thinking to yourself, okay, in 15 years, I'm 80. No one has even reached 80 years old. And this company is telling me, hey, I can stay in this house until, for the next 20 years, maybe even 25 years. So now you're either you're either 85, you're maybe 90 years old. Here's the thing. Fast forward. You're 90 years old. You're in better health than you ever thought you would be. You had all this monthly income, $2,000 a month. You were able to take better care of yourself. Your health is better. You've been going to Lifetime Fitness and all sorts of other, different things that extended your longevity. You're healthier at 90 than you were at 65. But guess what? The bank now owns your house. They've sent you the last $2,000. They own your house free and clear. Now what do you do?
And you've used this money to fight inflation. You didn't use this money to sock it away. You didn't use this money to invest it and grow it because you really couldn't. Mm-hmm. You were behind the 8 ball. You used this as your possible means of increasing your income through a passive income stream, so to speak. But you were just using it to get by. You were just using it to make ends meet.
Right.
I mean, before that, you were just literally one fixed income paycheck away from being homeless. So this sounded like a great opportunity.
It sure did. And the only reason why you even considered it is because you needed the cash 20 years ago. Now, here's the thing. This is just one example. Now, let's just say, hey, what if you accepted another type of deal where they said, hey, we're going to give you 10 years to live in this house, and we're going to give you bigger checks every single month so that the bank can own the property sooner. Because the goal of the bank, as quiet as it's kept, is not to really help you out, but they're going to market it to you as, hey, we want to help you out. But the goal of the bank is to own that property, right? And so they're owning this property after 10 years. Well, guess what? They may have given you $4,000 per month in checks until they paid this balance off. Now, if you weren't a very good steward of that money, if you weren't investing that money, if you weren't, setting yourself up financially with a great financial plan so that when that last check came in, you don't need any more checks, then you're out of a house because in 10 years they own that house. Now, here's another thing. Generally speaking, if you look at the historical appreciation of real estate in 10 years, that house is probably not worth $400,000. And so now you're legally obligated to transfer title of this real estate to the bank of this property that used to be $400,000 and could possibly be worth $600,000, $700,000, who knows?
That'd be like looking back 10 years before today and saying you had a house today that is worth $400,000, but we know what the housing market has been through. But this house, based on 10 years ago, was worth $250,000. Right. That'd be like sitting here today with a $400,000 house that was worth $250,000 10 years ago, and you agreeing to sell it to some outside investor for $250,000 today.
Right.
And that's ultimately what happens with the reverse mortgage is you agree to that now. 10 years from now, the deal is done.
Right.
But they bought it with 10 years ago money. Mm-hmm. And didn't even have to pay for it all up front.
And so now I give you guys just two different scenarios. Now, of course, let's play devil's advocate. There is a possibility that, the house could be worth less than the $400,000 that they bought it from in 10 years. But if you look at it historically, and I could share all of this information with you guys in another video, maybe, on a website, to the private members of the group or whatever. But here's the thing. I've already looked at the research. I've studied this. And in the last 100 years, the only significant decline in real estate prices occurred in the 2008 timeframe. And if you look at it today, housing prices, as bad as things were in the most painful recession I've ever personally lived through, we are now, multiples more expensive today than then.
I would even say that today, I would be willing to invest in real estate for the simple fact that I'm not looking to sell my real estate anytime soon. So some people may say, well, you're buying at the top of the market. The housing market is crashing, it's collapsing. What are you doing? This is crazy. This doesn't make any sense. And I would say, no, I'm okay with that. As long as I'm making educated decisions and doing my research,
Right.
and paying market value.
Right.
I mean, honestly, for what it's worth, I may hang on to this real estate indefinitely, and I don't care what it's worth anytime after that, because I'm not going to sell it. It's just going to be a permanent, real asset. It's going to become a cash-producing asset
Absolutely.
that I'll maintain and retain for my lifetime, and then pass it on to future generations so that they can have passive streams of income and equity, and ultimately different ways of growing their personal net worth. And that's just me thinking about it. But just imagine these companies out there that are looking to do that. Once they get a hold of it, once they get a lock on it, the opportunity for home ownership is going to be like completely eliminated. Probably, it's like land. They're not building any more of it. So you got to get what you can while you can.
Right.
And real estate, granted, there are some properties on the market that are available that you can buy up now, but real estate could potentially, theoretically, go that route where you can't own it anymore because everyone else already has it. They're not looking to sell it. And they're coming up with new and improved ways of basically like stealing it from people, stealing it from homeowners for less than its real value, and then making them feel good about the decision through some easy knock program, through some reverse mortgage program, taking advantage of the negative economy that we are in right now.
And now I just want to piggyback on that, because you hit on a lot of good points. I'm going to try to hold on to some of those in my mind before I let them go. But, it's like, okay, traditionally, once that bank owns it, they do whatever they want to do with it, right? That's, with a reverse mortgage. With a traditional mortgage where there's a foreclosure, usually, the bank tries to, get the homeowner to make good on the deal. And if they can't, then they're forced to foreclose. The bank doesn't really want to foreclose on it because the bank's not going to make any more money on the house.
The bank is interested in the principal and interest payments. They're not interested in the asset. They're really not. It's just a form of collateral. And they'll even try to help with facilitating the sale before foreclosure, which costs them money, with a short sale. But we can get into that in another video.
Right. And so the bank really doesn't want to foreclose. It's really not in their interest. It also, in the meantime, it's like they're not collecting any monthly payments from you while this litigation is going on. And if you guys look at the last 2 years, court systems are backed up.
Yeah. And foreclosures were typically the properties you find deals on.
Right.
So the banks, they're not really like profiting from these.
No, they're not profiting from these. But here's another thing that I don't hear a lot of people talking about. We know what BlackRock is doing. BlackRock is investing billions of dollars into the real estate market, both residential as well as commercial. And you don't know what companies like BlackRock's plans are. So, for example, who's to say, have you guys ever heard of shadow inventory? This is what happened quite a bit back in 2008, and I would expect to see this strategy.
Oh boy, brace yourselves. We're gonna touch on shadow, and then we're gonna leave it there because that's a whole nother video. But go ahead.
So imagine banks hold out and they don't release these pieces of real estate onto the market to be sold at the courthouse steps as they would traditionally be done, right? So let's just say that these banks, they decide to hold on to this real estate that they had to foreclose on. But BlackRock comes in and they say, hey, I want to buy all 1,000 of your foreclosures. They buy them all and they never sell them. Now they're keeping real estate off the market, making real estate even more scarce. The average person like me and you can't buy it, and it's driving up the value because for those properties that are for sale, guess what? The value just went up.
So this is the control and manipulation of supply and demand, and ultimately inflation, by those who have the financial means to do it at the expense of everyone else who doesn't.
Right.
I'm gonna leave it with that. I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you for allowing Economic Prepper to join me on this one and share some very, very valuable information. I think it's gonna help a lot of people out. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for joining. And I will link his channel in the description below if you guys want to check it out. He's got a lot of great information and other updates on economy, personal finance, the housing market, stocks, crypto, you name it. If you want to make money, talk to this guy. You guys take care. Be safe. See you later. Bye.